Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Midlife Crisis. This episode, we're going to be talking about the 30th anniversary special of Zero Hour, the event that we covered a little while ago. I thought it was a great time to just do this special because yeah, it takes place in the current, like, at current times within DC Comics, like what's currently going on, but it's largely separate from the current Green Lantern series, so you don't have to have read any of that stuff. All you really have to have read is Zero Hour itself. Yeah, the series was done as a celebration of Zero Hour and tells a brand new story within a separate reality, like another dimension, kind of showing what would happen if Zero Hour or the events of Zero Hour happened differently to how they did in the main universe. Because as we know, Zero Hour was a story where Hal Jordan had become Parallax after killing the Green Lantern Corps, and he wanted to reshape the universe in a way that he saw fit, and in doing so, he needed to destroy the universe and then recreate it. And so this story kind of follows an example of, like, what if Parallax succeeded in doing that? So let's just dive right in. But before we do, if you are new to the channel and you enjoy these videos, then please subscribe, because, you know, we'd love to have you here. And yeah, comment below and ask any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. So this story is written by Dan Jurgens and Ron Marz. Dan Jurgens most known for writing a lot of Superman stuff in the 90s. Ron Marz wrote a lot of Green Lantern stuff in the 90s, specifically a lot of Kyle Rayner stories. He co-created Kyle Rayner alongside Daryl Banks, who is one of the artists within this story. So there's many different artists, a lot of them coming from the 90s. We got Daryl Banks, Kelly Jones, Tom Grummett, Norm Rathmond, Jerry Ordway, Paul Pelletier, Howard Porter, Dan Jurgens, and Brett Breeding. So Dan does both the story and also does art in this too, because, you know, he's both. It's awesome. Yeah, so let's get straight into Zero Hour 30th Anniversary Special. The story begins with Kyle Rayner is on an alien planet, just doing Green Lantern stuff. He's kind of in between adventures. He doesn't really have a place in the DC universe quite yet, so he's kind of just figuring out what he wants to do, which is just helping people. You know, it's kind of like a superhero going through, like, being like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I'm not really a member of the Green Lantern. Like, I'm not really, like, a part of the Green Lantern series. You know, Hal's doing his thing. You know, Guy and John are busy doing their thing. So I'm just here doing whatever. And Wally West, or an alternate version of Wally West, emerges from a portal that appears in front of Kyle, asking for help. And he just grabs Kyle desperately by the arm and pulls him into this portal, transporting him to another dimension. Kyle arrives in Gotham City, but it's a different version of Gotham City. It's a lot cleaner, it's a lot nicer than the Gotham that he's used to. Immediately he sees a statue of Batman, and on the statue it says, "Gone but not forgotten." So immediately, you know, as a reader, you're assuming, oh, Batman's dead at this point. And, you know, who would be responsible for killing Batman? Probably Bane, because, you know, this is taking place around the time Zero Hour takes place, and Batman had just had his back broken by Bane not long before Zero Hour, so you would assume, like, oh, Bane killed Batman in this universe. So Wally quickly, you know, tackles Kyle out of the way, because Wally is currently fighting the Fatal Five, specifically a member called Validus. The Fatal Five are the mortal enemies of the Legion of Superheroes from the future. What we learn is that the Fatal Five managed to escape from their era being destroyed, because as we know in Zero Hour, a mysterious force was destroying the past and the future and would eventually meet in the middle and destroy the present. The future has already been destroyed, and the Fatal Five managed to barely escape from it. So yeah, Kyle helps Wally fight Validus, but Wally doesn't even know who Kyle is. He doesn't even know what a Green Lantern is. Yeah, they don't really get along at all in this. It's like Wally didn't even really mean to bring Kyle into this other dimension. It was kind of an accident. Like he was looking for help and he just grabbed the first person he could. And so yeah, Wally and Kyle fight Validus, and then another member of the Fatal Five shows up. Whose name is Tharok. He's like a half cyborg guy, and Wally gets struck by Validus's like electrical energy, which mortally wounds him. And then Tharok attacks Kyle, and then eventually Tharok and Validus are like, we should probably get out of here, because we need to, go back to the boss and figure out what we're gonna do, because, our era has already been destroyed, and we already know that this mysterious energy is probably gonna destroy the present as well. So we need to figure out how to escape it and survive. So they escape from Kyle, and Kyle is gonna go after them, but then he realizes that Wally is in bad condition, and, Wally is one of his best friends in his own dimension, so, he goes to find Wally, and Wally begs him to save his wife and children, and then he dies. So this version of Wally West from this other dimension is dead, and Kyle's just like, what the hell is happening? Oh my god. Meanwhile, this dimension's version of Two-Face, who's basically just the same, is flipping a coin, preparing to kill a couple of cops, and then he gets the crap beaten out of him by Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. So Batgirl is the protector of Gotham City because Batman is no longer here. She briefly mentions a Commissioner Grayson, so it's presumed that Dick Grayson became the commissioner of Gotham City, which is cool. We don't get to see him, but it's just a cool little mention. She sees Validus's electrical flash go off in the distance, and she follows it, and that's where she finds Kyle standing over Wally's body, and she believes that Kyle killed Wally, so she immediately just punches Kyle, and Kyle's just like, whoa, I'm Kyle Rayner, I'm a Green Lantern, and Batgirl's just like, I have no idea who you are, and Kyle's like, where's Batman? Where's Bruce? He can probably help, and Barbara's just like, you keep his name out your mouth, throws a smoke pellet at him. So Kyle uses his constructs to take care of the smoke pellet, and then he covers Batgirl in a construct shield so that he can get away from her, because he's like, man, people here are crazy, I need to go find Batman. And he brings Batgirl with him. He covers her in this barrier and then drags her along as he flies to Bruce Wayne's manor. When he gets there, we find out that Batman isn't actually dead. He's gone, but Bruce Wayne is still alive. Bane broke his back and he never recovered. And you'd probably be wondering, why didn't he recover? Why would Batman give up? Because the idea is that Bruce Wayne just kind of gave up. At least that's what Kyle says to him. He's like, the Batman I knew didn't give up, so why did you give up? And Bruce is like, get out of my house, or I'll sick Ace on you. And Kyle's like, alright, I'm leaving. See ya. And he decides to go to Metropolis because he wants help from Superman. Because to Kyle, Superman is the only person that could be able to help him with this whole situation. Meanwhile, the Fatal Five return to their home base ship, which is owned by Parallax, because obviously that's who their boss is. After they escaped from their era being destroyed, they came across Parallax, and Parallax promised that if they work for him, he will protect them from this mysterious energy that is destroying that's destroying everything. They tell Parallax of this mysterious Green Lantern that they've met, and Parallax wants to know where he is because Parallax wants Kyle's ring. So Kyle heads to Metropolis. He creates a construct of an S because he believes that would be the best way to summon Superman, and Supergirl shows up. Now, this is supposed to be the Matrix version of Supergirl, which was like an alien from another dimension, who was very close to Lex Luthor during the 90s. They don't say it's the Matrix version, but there is a later part of this story where she goes and visits Lex Luthor, and she's very close to him, so it's pretty easy to presume that it's supposed to be that version of Supergirl. It's cool because she's currently, she is Superman. Clark Kent is dead. After he died, he didn't come back for reasons. And Clark it's never overtly stated, but the reason Bruce gave up is probably because Clark never came back. Clark just not coming back to life kind of made Bruce give up and be like, well, if Clark's not around, if Superman isn't around anymore, then there's no point in Batman, me being Batman. So, yeah. Kyle goes and visits Supergirl. Immediately, she tries punching him because everyone, that's their first idea is to just punch him because she doesn't know who he is. He's just some stranger asking where Superman is. And she's like, well, that's suspicious if you're asking where Superman is, especially because he's dead. So I'm just going to beat the crap out of you anyway because I don't have to tell you a thing. So Kyle ends up landing in a graveyard where he finds the statue of Superman, and that's how when he realizes what's happened to Superman and that he's dead. Supergirl arrives in order to continue questioning Kyle, and Kyle continues to try and convince her that, he's just here to, he just wants to get back to his world. He just wants to figure out what's going on, where he is, why everything's so different. Azrael shows up with her. This is kind of when we have, all these 90s characters just show up because this is supposed to be a celebration of the 90s. So Azrael is there, and then the Ray shows up, and they all start fighting Kyle, just a massive fight between Kyle, the Ray, Supergirl, and Azrael. And the Ray gets, a nasty hit on Kyle. He ends up crashing into a tombstone, and that's when a lasso of truth wraps around him, and you think, oh, Wonder Woman is here. But it's not Wonder Woman, or at least it is Wonder Woman, but it's not Diana. It's actually Donna Troy. So in this dimension, Donna Troy is Wonder Woman, because they don't really say what happened to Diana. She either died or she's just at Themyscira. All we know is that Donna had to become the new Wonder Woman. She basically wears the Wonder Girl, the classic Wonder Girl costume, except it's blue, and she's got a tiara on. And Donna is the first person that Kyle is able to convince that he's a good person, because in the main universe, Kyle and Donna dated, and they were very close, and Kyle has even said multiple times, and he says so in this, that, Donna could have very well been the one, but unfortunately, one day she was just gone, and the relationship was over. And because he's speaking so sincerely to Donna, and he's like, just look at me, you can tell I'm not lying, Donna believes him, and she's ready to hear him out. And that's when Kyle explains everything. He explains how his universe is different, how everyone is still alive, and that's what's wrong about this dimension, is that Superman and Batman aren't supposed to be dead. Superman came back to life, Batman recovered, things are wrong, and they might keep getting worse. If things are already this bad, things might get worse. And that's when Obsidian shows up, and he's like, yeah, things are gonna get worse. Obsidian is Alan Scott's son, the original Green Lantern. He has the ability to control like shadows and stuff. This version of Obsidian is hinted to be the Spectre. Like, it's never overtly stated, but like when Kyle meets him, he says there's something gloomier about this Obsidian, and this Obsidian knows so much about like 0 Hour that it's pretty much confirmed that he is supposed to be this dimension's version of the Spectre. So Obsidian gives a little history on this version of 0 Hour. So in this history, all errors have been completely erased except for the present. The Legion's future has been erased, which the Fatal Five narrowly escaped. The past has been erased. And unlike the original 0 Hour, the JSA weren't able to escape from their past, like from their era being erased. So they were killed back in like World War II. Like they were just completely erased. So that's kind of where like the big diversion happens, because JSA played a massive role in 0 Hour, and with them gone, you know, that kind of led to the heroes being doomed. And like Obsidian is like, this mysterious energy from some outside source is converging on the present, and if we don't do something about it, it's gonna be gone forever. And that's when Parallax shows up, because he's finally figured out where Kyle is, and he's here to get the ring. The reason why Parallax wants the ring is because he wants to restore this dimension. Because Kyle goes up to him and is like, hey man, like, this dimension is being destroyed. I know that you were probably responsible for this. Like, I know you created this other dimension. Like, this is your creation. After, I don't know how you got here. Because Kyle is confused, because he sees this Parallax and he's like, I don't know where you came from, because the Parallax I know is gone now. But I know that wherever you came from, you're responsible for creating this other world, and you're probably responsible for destroying it too. And Parallax is like, well, if I'm responsible for this, then I'm gonna have to fix it. And in order to do that, I'm gonna need your ring. And so he just starts fighting Kyle, and then he summons the Fatal Five and orders them to fight Kyle too, so that they can steal the ring from Kyle. And that prompts some of the other heroes to protect Kyle, but they're not really on Kyle's side. They're more so just protecting their own world. Like, the only one who really likes Kyle is Donna. Like, the only one who really trusts him. But, like, most of them don't want their world to be destroyed, so they're gonna fight against the Fatal Five. So, a massive fight happens between, you know, the heroes and the villains and Parallax. Supergirl quickly leaves to go and talk to Lex Luthor to get his opinion on what's going on. And Lex is like, you gotta give Parallax the ring, because I think he's the only one that's gonna be able to save this world. Like, if he says he wants to restore everything and fix everything, maybe he should. Like, maybe it's a good idea. So Supergirl is like, we gotta give the ring to Parallax. I'm sorry, Kyle. And she starts attacking Kyle too. And Kyle's just like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? And then they see this mysterious energy has begun erasing Metropolis. And they're like, oh no, it's here. The present is being erased. We're running out of time. We then cut to Parallax's ship, and that's when we get a bit of a plot twist. So, as we know at the moment, the Legion of Superheroes were destroyed in the future when this energy destroyed the future. Turns out, one of them managed to survive. So, when the Fatal Five barely escaped from the future using the Legion's time bubble, they found like this time sphere, and they used it to get away. One of the members of the Legion, whose name is Invisible Kid, went invisible and hitched a ride, and so he managed to escape as well. He begins exploring Parallax's ship, where he finds a room that is locked. And so Invisible Kid is like, I wonder what Parallax is hiding in here. It's got all sorts of codes and barriers, which means he's hiding something dire in here. So I'm going to try and open this door up and see what's in here. Like, what is Parallax hiding? So he begins breaking into this room. Meanwhile, the other heroes notice that, like, this energy is destroying everything. So, like, they turn to the Fatal Five and they're like, hey guys, maybe we should stop fighting. You should team up with us because otherwise we're all dead. And some of the Fatal Five members are like, sure, let's team up with them. And then some of them are really stupid. Like, there's one member of the Fatal Five whose name is Mano, and he's like, let's see if this indestructible energy can take on an indestructible man. And he just, like, punches it and then gets erased. He's just like, ah! And they're like, alright, now that the idiots are out of the way, like, why don't the rest of you team up with us instead of doing what that guy did? Otherwise, unless you want to die. And the Fatal Five are kind of just like, we're probably gonna die anyway, so we'd rather die fighting you. Like, they don't really team up with them for very long. Like, there's a moment where the Fatal Five are like, maybe we should team up with the heroes. And then they're like, actually, we're still evil, so we're just gonna turn against you anyway. And the heroes are just like, what? What the hell? Like, come on. Like, don't you want to live? Like, this is stupid. You're all idiots. So, the Fatal Five all attack Kyle at once, and they knock him out long enough so that Parallax can swoop in and grab his ring. And with the ring, Parallax is like, there's only one way to fix this. I need to erase everything. That's how I'm going to fix it, because I can't restore everything, and I don't really want to. The easiest way to fix everything is to just get rid of it all and start all over again. And so he starts erasing everything with the ring. Meanwhile, Invisible Kid finally breaks through this door and he finds what Parallax is hiding on his ship. It turns out he's hiding Wave Rider. That's right, Wave Rider, the being who can travel through time, whose job is to make sure that the timeline goes the way it's supposed to, has been captured by Parallax because he is the only one capable of stopping Parallax, and Parallax knows it. So Invisible Kid is like, who the hell are you? And Wave Rider's like, I'm Wave Rider. Let me tell you how I got here. Let me tell you how I got in this situation. So he explains everything to Invisible Kid. He's like, there was this little event called 0 Hour where this energy was destroying everything. And at the end of the event, like, everything was destroyed. And then what happened was I restored the main timeline. And when I restored the main timeline, I grabbed everyone and, like, took them to the main timeline. But in doing so, I accidentally created a copy of Parallax without realizing. So they were at the end of time where there was nothing. And when Wave Rider grabbed everyone to bring them back to the main timeline, a duplicate of Parallax was created within this, like, dimension where there was nothing. And this duplicate of Parallax that was in this dimension that didn't have anything in it created his own universe, his own little universe, which is the one that we're currently in. The one with Donna Troy as Wonder Woman and you know, Supergirl and stuff. But in doing so, in creating this universe, Parallax actually used up all of his power, and so the universe started folding in on itself and destroying itself. And so it's not an outside source that is destroying their dimension. It was Parallax that was responsible for destroying it, because he ran out of power. And so Wave Rider is like, we've got to go and find Parallax and basically just tell everyone that their world is doomed. Like, there's nothing they can do. And that what we need to do is, I know that Kyle Rayner is here, and he's not supposed to be here. So my job is to grab Kyle Rayner, take him out of this dimension, and let this dimension die, because there's nothing we can do. There's no way of saving it. The hard thing is going to be convincing Kyle to come with me. So, you know, all the heroes and the Fatal Five are, like, arguing over saving the world, and protecting it. And that's when Wave Rider shows up and is like, no point. There's no point saving the world. Because originally Donna is like, you should leave, Kyle, because our world is doomed. And if you don't leave, your world might be destroyed as well. Because they kind of theorize that if this dimension gets destroyed by this energy, then it will spread to Kyle's dimension, because Kyle is currently in their dimension. So he'll get, like, infected by it and bring it back to his dimension, and it'll start destroying everything, like, all the universes. And Wave Rider shows up and is like, that's true. Kyle, if you don't leave this dimension, and you don't allow me to shut this dimension off from all the others so that it can die alone, everything will die. Everyone will die. All the universes will die. It'll all be over. So what would you prefer? Would you prefer to save this world and possibly, like, would you prefer to try to save this world and possibly do millions? Or would you rather this one world that wasn't even supposed to exist die, saving millions? And most of the heroes are like, we'd rather die than let any other worlds go through the same thing that we're going through. The only one who's against it is Guy, but even Guy's kind of just like Guy Gardner, he's just like, shit, like everyone disagrees with me. Oh well, I guess we gotta let our world die. And so the Fatal Five overwhelm Parallax alongside the heroes so that Kyle can take his ring back from Parallax and use the ring to preserve this dimension so that it can die by itself and not affect anything in. Basically, he uses the ring to close this dimension off from all of the others. And the heroes all prepare to protect their world as much as they can until the inevitable happens. Basically, they're all coming to the conclusion that they're going to die, so they're going to just do whatever they can, even though they know it's hopeless. And Donna just turns to Kyle and is like, this is the last time we're going to talk to each other. Even though I don't know you very well, I can sense that I knew you. Like, you tell me that this other version of me knows you, and so I want you to have this as a keepsake from me. And she hands Kyle her necklace. And this is a very touching moment, because in the main continuity, when Kyle and Donna were dating, Kyle made Donna a construct necklace for her to wear. Unfortunately, she doesn't wear it anymore, but he made that for her, and so it's kind of Ron Marz throwing back to that. It's a nice little throwback to that. It's really sweet. And Kyle's just like, Donna, no, wait! Donna, please! And so Donna, like, he tries to chase after Donna as she flies after the rest of the heroes into oblivion, and Wave Rider grabs Kyle and he's like, we gotta go! I'm sorry, Kyle, if we don't leave now, you might get destroyed. We gotta go back to your dimension. And he pulls Kyle out of this other world, and it gets completely erased. And Kyle's just like, no! Wave Rider brings Kyle back to the planet that we began on, and Wave Rider is just like, I know that was a hard decision to make, leaving that world, but you made the right choice. And Kyle's just like, I know I did, but I still feel like I could have done something. And even though that wasn't my world, I gained a certain attachment to it because they were all people I knew, even though there were different versions. So I can't help but feel guilty for that entire world just being gone. And it still feels like the choice I made was the bad one. Like, it was the wrong choice. I don't feel good about it. And so Wave Rider leaves Kyle. Kyle heads off into space, and he's just like, now what do I do? Like, what am I gonna do now? He heads off into space and he's like, I don't care what Wave Rider says, there must have been a way. And this is gonna eat me up inside for a long time. And then a mysterious voice begins talking about Kyle and is like, go, leave, forget the destruction you left behind. Soon you will come to know that you made a mistake that will haunt you. You might think you put reality in its proper place. What you've really done, however, is free me. And Parallax, the parasite, the fear parasite that took control of Hal and made him into Parallax, emerges from a meteorite. And so it seems like Kyle, in going to this other dimension, causing its destruction, has freed another version of Parallax. And that's where it ends. That's where the special ends. It ends on that little cliffhanger. And who knows? Maybe this storyline will be explored in the future. I don't think there's any kind of guarantee. I'm pretty sure Ron Marz and Dan Jurgens kind of added this as kind of like an open, like, who knows? Like, maybe we'll get to, like, if DC, lets us continue this story, maybe you'll see it. Like, if you enjoyed this, then, like, buy the comic and maybe DC will let us do more. But yeah, that was the 0 Hour 30th anniversary special. Overall, I really enjoyed it. And it probably helps that, I read 0 Hour and a lot of the 90s stuff recently. I'm currently, like, still entrenched in the 90s stuff. Even though I'm in the early 2000s now, I still, like, there's still a lot of stuff from the 90s that has kind of lingered around. No, this was really enjoyable. Like, just, it's one of those comics where you can just be like, like, I understood that reference. Like, it's not anything, like, incredibly deep. It's just a fun story about an alternate version of 0 Hour, and with all sorts of little throwbacks to things that you remember from the 90s. It's just a love letter to the 90s. That's all it is, and that's all it really should be. And so if you're looking for some kind of world-changing story on the level of something like Grant Morrison, like, that's not what you're going to get if you read this. But if you're looking for just a fun alternate universe crossover story about a bunch of different versions of your favorite characters, and getting to see Parallax again, like, if you love Parallax, like the classic version, and you wanted to see more of him, then I would highly recommend reading this story. Like I said before, you don't have to have read, like, the only thing you really should read before you read this is 0 Hour, but you don't have to have been reading the current Green Lantern or any of that stuff. This is purely self-contained. It says it takes place before Green Lantern issue 8. I think whatever the latest Green Lantern issue was at the time. But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, which I hope you did, then feel free to go and pick up a copy of the 30th anniversary special. Support your comic books. Try to support them. Especially because I want Ron Marz to be given the chance to continue writing some more Kyle Rayner stories, because, he writes Kyle Rayner incredibly well. So does Dan Jurgens. So yeah, I'm definitely supporting this book, and I hope you do too. And if you enjoyed this episode, I hope to see you next week for another episode where we will be starting Identity Crisis, the crossover event that took place in 2004. We'll be doing the entire Identity Crisis event, as well as the Flash story that took place during Identity Crisis, called The Secret of Barry Allen. So we'll be doing those at the same time, because the Flash issues intertwine with Identity Crisis. So yeah, this has been me. This has been Kay with another episode, and I'll see you next week for Identity Crisis. Have a good one.